Alright, so I wanted to put this video out real quick just to create a breakdown of the four main concepts that this channel is about. And those, if you look at my description on this channel, are listed as identity, awareness, consciousness, philosophy. And I want to break down what those mean and why those are the four main concepts that I decided to create this channel around, because it is important to understand it. This channel is here to help you to receive clarity, peace, to have the inner knowing of who you are. And those four concepts are what allow that to be known, to really be understood within. Okay, so identity, actually we'll start with awareness. Awareness is, the way I use awareness is in the same sense as consciousness, but with a dimension of space. It adds a lens of everything outside and not limited to self. And if you know yourself, you'll know that everything outside of you is just a projection of you. Everything is self. So there is nothing but self in our reality at all. But awareness is the understanding that self exists in a space that is from this physical lens, this third dimensional body, outside of myself. So that is awareness. Awareness is understanding that there is self outside of the traditional, stereotypical identity of self, of the physical body and mind. All right. And that leads me into the next one, which is consciousness. Consciousness is most people, when you think of consciousness, you think of your body or mind or having to do with this physical being, which isn't wrong, but that's why I like to separate consciousness and awareness, because both of them exist. But if you just use consciousness to talk about the awareness of self, or the aspects of self that exist and the physical world outside of you, then you kind of lose a little bit of that inherent meaning behind it. So most people, when you say consciousness, they think of a aspect of the physical being or the mind. It's somehow rooted in this body that we call self. And when I talk about consciousness, that's what I refer to, is the awareness from this perspective, from this person's perspective. And this person's perspective, who is perceiving that awareness of self and the consciousness of self, as well as the awareness of what's outside of self, is the identity. The identity is the way that consciousness can understand itself. I'm trying to get this light good. Not that you need to see my face, but probably looks better. Identity is who you define yourself as. So whoever, in every area of your life, if you think about money, the first thing that comes to mind about it for outside of you or for you, that is your identity surrounding money. And identity is the way that consciousness shapes itself into a form that is able to be understood by this physical mind and played out in our 3D reality. Basically, it breaks it down so we don't get fucking overwhelmed like, holy shit, I am limitless. And we don't just have that awareness floating inside of our mind at any given moment of the day. And philosophy is the last concept. And philosophy is breaking down identity, awareness, consciousness, what we call life, into a form that we can understand and apply in our life. And what I think is great about all of these is that every single person's identity, every single person's philosophy, awareness, and consciousness are different. No one has the exact same of any of those, because that is part of why, or that's a reason why we are here, is to experience ourself in a billion different versions of ourself. So philosophy is, for me, amazing to read and understand, but the more I've learned about it and the more philosophies or more types of philosophy that I've read, the more I've understood that it doesn't really matter which philosophy you choose to subscribe to, because whatever one you choose to subscribe to, you can find the evidence for it in your life, and you can see how that plays out in your reality. And that's why I think philosophy is super important to know about, with an understanding of who you are, with an understanding that you are all that is. You are everything. You are consciousness in this body. You identify with that consciousness, and you are the awareness that everything else outside of you, that you see outside of you, is also you. And when you know that you are not only this body, this mind, when I say that, I'm saying it in the sense that you are identifying with it, but it's not who you truly are. When you know that you choose to identify with your body, with your mind, and it's no different than this car that I'm sitting in right now, or the tree that's in front of me. But I am both of those things. I am in all of that. But I identify with this body, with this mind. And so this is how I filter consciousness. This is my awareness of consciousness. And when I understand that, when you understand that all you are doing is just perceiving your own awareness of consciousness, then you can look at any philosophy, you can look at anything, really. It doesn't have to be a typical philosophy or philosophical work. It can be a fiction novel, and you can identify with that and use that as a framework for your life, for who you are, for who you want to identify with. And so my goal here is to remind you to not limit yourself in who you identify with, in what you identify with in your consciousness and in your reality. Remember that there is a vast, immense world of awareness that our physical bodies don't even know the limits of. So remember that all you're seeing is just your own understanding of yourself. And if you don't like what you are seeing, to simplify it all, if you do not like what you are seeing in your reality, in the awareness that exists outside of you, if you do not like what you are seeing in your awareness, then change the identity that you as consciousness are currently inhabiting. And when you do that, your awareness will shift. You change the identity, the I am that your consciousness exists as. You change that, your awareness shifts. And anything in the world can be your philosophy. So decide who you want to be, decide what you want to do, decide who you are. Stick to it and watch as it unfolds in your awareness. Till next time, peace.